Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to part two of the Survivor Season 43 premiere episode. Again, it's part two. If you haven't seen part one, may I suggest that you shut this down? You go watch part one of the recap first. Now, if you want to be a rebel and watch the second part first, that's fine with me. You be you. But this is part two, so you have been warned. All right, with that being said, when we left off from part one, we had all three tribes back at their base camps with varying levels of success at building their shelters, but all three tribes also with varying amounts of alliances and relationship building and everything else going on. The yellow tribe, not so much. Owen really trying to reach out, develop some relationships. Other tribes, blue tribe, alliances and people trying to set things up everywhere, it seems like. So we had a little bit of differences between the tribes. But we're getting ready to get another wrinkle thrown into the first. I think this is probably day two or so for the survivors out there. They're getting ready to have another wrinkle thrown into the plans, and that consists of a boat showing up at each of the three camps. And as soon as I hear that boat coming, and that's usually not a good sign, right? Or at least there's something interesting getting ready to happen. Well, interesting indeed. As they get up to each boat, there's got a boatman who's got a letter for them. They read the letter that says one person from each tribe must get in the boat. They'll be back by that afternoon, but someone needs to get in the boat. That's it. No clue what's going on whatsoever. Now, it does seem very similar to the last two seasons. And we've heard one or two of the castmates saying that, yeah, we saw the last couple of seasons. So I think they're up to speed on maybe what happened with the boats last time. But you never know how things are going to change from season to season. So here's the question to you. If you're on one of these tribes, are you volunteering to be that one person to get in that boat, go somewhere, maybe gain an advantage, but certainly also gain a lot of suspicions from your castmates that are behind you? I don't know that I personally, well, it depends. I don't know that I personally would volunteer to get on that boat unless I felt for whatever reason that maybe my game was already at risk a little bit. Say I'm the older guy who feels like there's already a target on your back, like Gabler. Say I maybe am someone like Gio or Lindsay who maybe didn't feel like they performed well enough in the reward challenge and maybe feels a little threat. Well, there may be some reasons that you volunteer, but for the most part, I just think it makes people look at you with a little suspicious eye when you get on that boat. We'll see how they handle it. I thought it was kind of unique how some of these people handled it coming back. But how do they pick? Well, turns out that the blue tribe picked numbers to see who was going, and Carla was the one who won, lost. Not sure how he got, but Carla got picked for the blue tribe to get on the boat and head to wherever they're heading to. Gabler on the yellow tribe, also a random draw. So I'm holding out fingers, counting around 43 or something. Anyway, Gabler also got picked, which again, I think from Gabler's standpoint, being the older guy, having already vocalized that he felt like maybe he could be a target, I'm not sure it's a bad thing for him to be getting on this boat. And then finally, so two of the tribes complete random draw. Red tribe, maybe not so much random. On the red tribe, we actually have Dwight has volunteered to go and wants to see what the adventure is all about. And everyone says, yeah, go for it. Let's see what happens, Dwight. So he's volunteered. Is it going to come back to bite him or not? We shall find out. So all three get on their three separate boats, take off to wherever. And of course, all three arrive at some spot, some beach together. Sounds like the star of a country, some beach. They end up at some beach, and they're together. There's a sign that says you need to proceed to the big rock. Now, if you remember the last two seasons, they had to they had to hike up a pretty big mountain hill. It looked like a mountain to me, but had to climb a pretty tall area to get up to the top. This time, there's no big mountain. They had to head to the big rock, which is stick out in the middle of the ocean. They have to walk through the water. It doesn't get deep, but it does involve going through slippery rocks, going through some water till they finally get to this big rock. And at the base of the rock, there's a table. There's 3 bags on it, and there's some instructions telling them that, very similar to the last couple of seasons, this is a situation where they can either play it safe and nothing will happen, or they can risk their vote, which means that either something good's going to happen to them or they're going to lose their vote going into the tribal council. It's a reward risk challenge, or if you just want to play it safe, do that. And as it turns out, it depends on the way it works. Every person has two cards: one that says risk, one that says no risk. You secretly decide which one you want to do. You play that card. Everyone then flips it over. The people who aren't taking a risk, that's it. They go back to camp. No gain, no loss. Nothing different happens to them. If more than one person decides to risk their vote, then though, each person who risks their vote has to reach into a bag, draw out a scroll or little container that either says that you won whatever the secret power is, or you didn't win and you've lost your vote at tribal council. So it's that whole issue. Do you want to take a risk on your game by playing that risk? Well, Gabler has started off trying to basically say, I'm going for it. I'm going to go for it, with the hopes that if everyone else, the other two, see how serious he is, how intent he is to risk his vote to go for that power, that maybe they'll back off, and then he gets it by default, right? Well, we'll see how that works out or not. Now, I was thinking about it. These three have just met each other. There's no real animosity. There may be a good opportunity to actually work together a little bit on this. No one wants to lose their vote. So what if, as an agreement, the three of them, before ever deciding what they want to do with their cards, what if they just said, hey, let's do rock, paper, scissors, or eeny, meeny, miny, mo, whatever. Somehow we do some kind of random selection where we agree that whoever gets picked, risk their vote, gets whatever power it is. The other two of us just play it safe. Neither one of us risk it, and we go home safe, with the agreement that by doing this, maybe we work together going forward. If we're all here at tribe merge or something, maybe whoever gets that power can use it to help us out or something. It seems like there could be an opportunity for some bonding and some relationships at this point in time. It did work out like that. No, it didn't work out. As I mentioned, Gabler decides he's going to risk his vote. Carla says, she mentions at one point, she says, a vote is life at this point in time. And she's kind of right. There's only 6 people on a tribe, which means 3 votes and you're out. If you lose your vote, that means you and 3 votes versus 2, someone could vote you out with only half the tribe voting. So she is right that it's very risky to lose your vote at this point in the game. But sometimes you have to take risks. Carla chooses not to. Gabler has made it clear that he is going to risk his vote, and he does. So it all comes down to Dwight. What's Dwight? Is Dwight the risk taker, or is he going to play it conservative? Yeah, Dwight's a risk taker. Of course he is. Now, Dwight risked his vote as well. So Carla's fine. No loss whatsoever. But now each of them reaches into the bag, grabs their little container that has either a wonderful advantage or the information that you've lost your vote. They can't open it till they get back to camp. So we as viewers don't know who benefited from this, don't know who lost on this. And again, it all comes down to tribal and how that's going to work as well. So we see that happen. They're all heading back to camp. And before they ever get back to camp, remember the red team that was having so many issues building their shelter, and the producers playing the comedy music in the background and all of that. Well, we see a little caption at the bottom of the screen saying 30 hours into the challenge, and they still don't have fire. They've been working for 30 hours and they haven't been able to get fire started at the red camp. Not a good sign. But with that being said, eventually Justine finally gets the fire going. Congratulations to her. She talks about how proud she is that she got it going. Everyone in that tribe ought to be pretty grateful, because you can get all the flint in the world, but if you can't make it work, it's no good. It might as well be just another piece of rock, right? But Justine gets it going. So finally the red tribe has fire after only 24 hours and a few hours added onto that. So that was pretty funny. All right. With that being said, we do have the three castaways getting back from their little boat adventure. And I'm really curious to see how they handle this. Do they lie about everything? Do they tell the truth? Do they go somewhere in between, as we've seen in past seasons? A little bit different approach at this point in time. I think because these castaways have seen the last couple of seasons, I think you almost have to tell them at least part of the truth, to make them because they're going to be suspicious that you've got some kind of power if you don't. So that's my thought going in, but I'm not sure how these castaways are going to do it. Well, Dwight comes back and says, "Look, this is exactly what happened." He says, we risked our vote, we didn't risk our vote, and he tells them, says, "Carla from the blue team didn't risk her vote, but I risked it, and Gabler risked as well. We don't know what the results are. I've got it right here. I'm going to have to go off somewhere and read it alone, but I'll let you know. I'm not going to keep anything from you." And so he's being very open, very honest about all of that. So he does that. Now, Gabler or Cody immediately, Cody's playing the game. He's thinking everything through. Cody immediately is talking. I can't remember who he's talking to. He says, he's too straightforward. He's trying to be too open. There's something more to it. He wouldn't be telling us that easy. He said, "I'm just not believing Dwight. There's more to the story than he's telling us." He says he talked about having to go out to this rock in the middle of the ocean. Well, he's completely dry. He was only gone an hour and a half. There's no way his clothes would dry that quick. Cody's not buying what Dwight's selling, but Dwight's telling the truth. He truly is. All right, so that's what's happening in that camp. Meanwhile, over in the yellow camp, Gabler's saying the same thing. He's saying, "Look, we had to pick. I chose. Dwight chose. We don't know who won. We don't know who didn't win. But I'll let y'all know as well. I'm not going to try to hide anything whatsoever from you guys." Interesting approach. It's one thing to come back and say, "Look, here's what happened. I don't know if I won the power or not. Go off somewhere, read it yourself." Maybe at that point, you tell everyone and say, "Look, for the benefit of my game, I can't tell y'all, but I could be better off. I could be worse off. Maybe do it like that." But no, he did. Both of them are saying, "Yeah, I'll tell y'all everything. I don't want to have secrets from y'all this early in the season." A very interesting approach. I really thought that was something to see. So they eventually open up their containers, and the winner of the power advantage is Gabler. Yeah, Gabler, who again maybe needs his power based on being a little older and maybe at least thinking he's a target. Sometimes perception is reality. Turns out he has won, and what he has won is an immunity idol, but little bit of strings attached. Literally, but also metaphorically, I guess so. The strings attached in that this immunity idol is only good for the next two tribal councils. Beyond that, can't be used anymore. Now, I don't know if that means the next two tribal councils that happen on the season of Survivor or the next two tribal councils for the Yellow Tribe. That really wasn't explained yet. I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get some clarifications a little bit on down the road, but Gabler has won the immunity challenge. He goes over, he shows everyone, says, "Hey guys, I'm not trying to hide it from you. Here you go." He lets them read the information that says that it's only good for two tribal councils. Now, here's the thing: as I think about it, that may not be a bad strategy. Will anyone try to flush the idol out of Gabler by voting against him and forcing him to use that idol? I don't think they do when there's so few people voting at this point in time. You can't afford to flush out an idol because then he and one or two other people can vote for you, and next thing you know, you're out the door. So I don't know that they would try to flush the idol. And if it's only good for the next two tribal councils, it becomes less imperative that you try to flush the idol out. You can just wait that out to some degree, right? If it's good to the very end of the season or until you get final five or whatever, well, then maybe you want that thing gone. But I have a feeling most people would say, "All right, two, we'll put up with Gabler for two tribals if we have to, if that's all it lasts." So I don't think it was bad strategy from Gabler at all. Over on the other side, on the red tribe, Dwight opens his up. Well, since Gabler won, we know that Dwight lost. Yeah, he opens it up. It says, "You did not win. You have lost your vote for the next tribal council." And he's telling all of them, saying, "All right, guys, just so you know, here's the paper that says I didn't win. I don't even thinking otherwise." So he's told everyone that he doesn't have a vote at the next tribal council. Is that smart? That's the area where maybe I would have considered not saying anything until after the next tribal council. Hold on to that sheet of paper, and maybe after the next tribal council, then show everyone that piece of paper and say, "Look, I didn't vote because of this, but you also then know that I don't have any other powers or anything else." But he tells everyone, so we'll see how that affects it as well. As far as Carla, who played it safe, who didn't risk her vote, They don't show what she told her tribe mates. So I don't know if she lied through her teeth, if she just outlined that I didn't risk it either, and they believed her, they didn't believe her. Not really sure what happened over on the blue tribe with Carla, with this whole area. We'll find out. All right. With that being said, or maybe we won't find out. Maybe we won't find out until much later. But with that being said, it's time for the immunity challenge. Yeah, there's no waiting here at Big Brother. No, it's no waiting here at Survivor. They're moving right on from one situation to another, and we're ready for the immunity challenge. A fairly typical looking, huge obstacle course. Man, these sets are amazing that Survivor puts together. They've got a huge obstacle course that we see. And here's how it's going to work. 3 tribes, they're all going to be competing. All the castaways have to go into a big pit of sand, dig for 3 balls that are buried under or attached to some poles. Once they've got the 3 balls, one person from each tribe has to dig themselves underneath a large wooden pole, wooden log laying outside. Once they get through to the other side, pick up a machete, cut a rope, which causes a ramp to slide down. I think it's 15 feet or so ramp, something like that. So with this ramp, they then have to work with each other to get everyone up the ramp to the top. Excuse me. So they have to get to the top of the ramp. Once they get to the top of the ramp, there's a balance beam. At least one person has to make it across the balance beam, because once they do, there's a piece of wood with a bunch of knots on it. Once 1 or 2 people get across, you can work on those knots. Once you release the knots, then you can flip open this balance beam so it's twice as big, and anyone at that point should be able to get across it. But at least 1 or 2 people have to get across, which is the tiny little skinny balance beam. So that's a competition. Once you've gotten across the balance, everyone's gotten across the balance beam, slide back down to the other side of the to the obstacle course. And at that point, there are 3 different mazes. They're all ball mazes of some sort or another, but different configurations. First team that gets there gets to pick one of the 3 ball mazes to try to solve. Next team gets to pick between the other 2, and whoever's the last person to show up, well, they're stuck with whatever's left. First person to solve their ball maze wins immunity. The second tribe to finish their ball maze also wins immunity. Yeah, there's only going to be one team that doesn't win immunity that goes to tribal tonight. And not only are they sending someone home, they're also having to give up their flint and their pot and their machete. So yeah, it's enjoy those luxuries while you can. I hope you got a big roaring fire going on before you went to the tribal challenge or immunity challenge, because if you lose, that's the end of your fire if you don't have some embers sitting there. So that's the way the obstacle course is going to work. I love these obstacle course challenges. All right. We start off with this competition. Right off the bat, we see that the red team may be starting off a little bit behind everyone else. But by the time everyone's dug up the balls, we've got 3 players digging underneath the logs. They're pretty much neck and neck. It's a pretty close competition at this point in time. But then we get Ryan and the blue team, blue tribe, are the first to actually get to the ramp itself. And gotta say, once they get to that ramp, I think it's James who basically just leans up against the ramp with his back to it and just serves as a ladder. One of the women immediately just jumps up, puts her feet on his shoulders, is able to get up to the top of the ramp, helping everyone else up. Blue tribe is really dominating, I guess, at this point, except for James. James, who I said in part 1, just seemed like a very happy, nice, friendly guy. James has he has a few problems with his wardrobe, in that as he's trying to get up this ramp, his pants just fall around. Now, they had to go through, I didn't think I mentioned, before they even dig for the balls, they had to go through mud. So all of them are covered in mud, and James, you can barely tell that the pants have fallen down around the ankles, but fall they have. And so James is trying to get up this ramp with his pants around his ankles. He can't. He's the last person. He just can't quite get up the ramp. He ends up sliding down as a result. And so that's unfortunate, because they're squandering the lead they have. But at this point, Ryan jumps back down the ramp, gets James, pushes him up the ramp, gets him up there, and then by himself backs up, jumps far enough up the ramp that some of the other castmates on his tribe are able to grab his hands. He gets up there. They're getting ready to go to the balance beam. Someone's yelling at James saying, get those britches up, get your pants up. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. That's something that I would do in a challenge like that. But it definitely, not only did they do well in getting the ramp so early, Ryan showed that he just is continuing to be a bit of a beast on these physical challenge. But at the same time, there also was great teamwork in the way they operated. On the other hand, we've got the red team who finally has made it to the ramp. They're doing okay, and the yellow team is way behind because Janine just can't get under that log. Now, Janine is probably one of the most small, most petite players in the game this season. You wouldn't think that she'd need a very big hole, but she needed a hole a little bit bigger than she dug, apparently, because she is just not quite getting through there. Later in the episode, you see her. She's got scabs all over her chin. She paid a price getting through that log, but she eventually did make it through. But yellow team is definitely behind at this point in time. We do have the blue team eventually make it across the balance beam. Everyone on the team makes it across the balance beam before the yellow team has even made it up the ramp. Yellow team just not having a good day. I saw Gabler trying to get up on one of the lady's shoulders, and he slipped, just crashes into her. They're just falling all over anywhere. So the blue team is definitely in the lead, especially over the yellow team. The blue team has chosen the first ball maze, and it's hard to describe. It's a maze. They've got to get the ball through 3 balls, land them in 3 holes at the other end of the maze itself. The red team is the next to finish. They've selected another type of ball puzzle, which has just a tiny little ramp that the ball has to travel all the way from start to finish. And then once it gets to the end, there's 3 holes for each of the 3 balls to go into. I got to say, I kind of like the competitions that involve rolling balls down ramps and mazes and curves and things like that. I think I do okay at it, but they get that. And then finally, the yellow team eventually, way behind, but eventually they get to the puzzles as well. They're stuck with the final ball maze, which involves basically rolling it to the other end, 3 balls, but there's big blocks, square blocks, diamond shaped blocks in the middle that make it really tough to work around. Each of these ball mazes, 2 people are operating, 1 person on one side, 1 on the other. So you got to work together, and that's not easy to do whatsoever. It takes a little finesse, and all it takes is 1 person kind of fighting against you, and it's not happening. We see them all working. The blue team got a big lead to start with, and it pays off because the blue team has won immunity. They are safe for the week. They aren't going to be sending the first person home for this season of Survivor. Second team to finish up is the red team. Yeah, the red team finished. It looked a little iffy there for a while. They were having a hard time rolling down the ball, rolling it down that little skinny ramp, but eventually they figured out. They made it happen. The yellow team, not so great. Not only were they the last ones to get there to get the ball maze, but you had Sammy and Gabler were the 2 that were controlling the ball maze. They just didn't work well together. I think maybe a little egos competing against each other in this particular challenge. They got frustrated with each other. They started griping with each other, saying, "You got to help me out here. Hey, I'm barely touching it. It's not me. You control it." And they just didn't get along. So not only is the yellow team giving up their flint, their pot, their machete, not only are they going to tribal council, but now you've created a little friction in this tribe already, which is not a good way to start. We'll see if that carries through or if it's just the frustration of the competition itself. Maybe that's just it. We will find out. But the yellow team is heading to tribal council. It's a good thing that Gabler has that immunity idol. He already thought he'd be a target, but at least now he has immunity. He'll be safe this week, right? You would think, but Gabler's going to surprise us a little bit. Let the conspiring begin for yellow. They're all kumbaya up to this point. Well, now not so much. Now that they have to figure out who's going home from this tribe. Now, one thing I immediately thought of when this happened, 2 things. One, Gabler thought he's a target. Good thing he's got the immunity idol. First point. Second point, Owen sure was talking to a lot of people. Is that going to help him? Does he have protection from all these people he's talked to? Or is it going to come back to bite him if people start comparing notes and start doubting his sincerity because he talked to so many people? Could go either way. It just depends on how much people talk to each other. We will find out. So the big surprise, Gabler, who's got an immunity idol, seems like he's probably the safest person in this tribe as a result, has decided that he's going to be the accountable person. He talks about it's important to take accountability. that he was at the end of that competition where they didn't make the ball maze work. Well, first of all, they were the last ones there, so give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt with that. But Gabler saying, look, if I feel like I should be one of the ones that would probably be a target if it wasn't for this immunity idol. So he's saying, because of that, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm not going to use the immunity idol. What? Really? I'm not going to use the immunity idol. I'm going to take a shot in the dark. Now, if y'all remember from last season or last couple of seasons, shot in the dark means you've got a 1 in 6 chance that you get immunity by picking the right scroll. You've got a 5 in 6 chance that not only do you not have immunity, but you also lose your vote. Everyone is in shock. Their jaws are hitting the ground as Gabler's basically saying, yeah, I'm not going to do it. There's a part of me that said, if someone like that's on my tribe, I'm saying, all right, works for me. And I know who I'm going to target as a result of it too. But he's willing to fall on the sword. You don't do that. I just don't think you do that. But that's what Gabler is saying he's going to do. It's crazy. But Owen and Ellie, I think it's Ellie. Ellie's the therapist girl, the psychologist. I hope I'm using the right word. But Owen and Ellie are telling Gabler, saying, "Look, I know you're trying to be accountable and be loyal, that you're doing what you think is right and all that, and that's fine." I said, "But we need your vote. You can't be doing the shot in the dark. There's a 5 in 6 chance that you're going to lose your vote. We need your vote so we can control what happens as well. You're kind of abandoning us if you just do that, Gabler. It's not just you who's playing the game; it's us as well." And so Owen and Ellie, in fact, at one point she says, I'm a psychologist. That's part of what I do, is convince people to do things that are beneficial. I think it's usually beneficial to them. And I guess this was the case, but I think she's kind of thinking about beneficial to her as well. But anyway, they're saying, look, we need your vote. We can't have you doing that shot in the dark. And he backs off. He says, all right, I will not use the shot in the dark. But he doesn't say that he's not going to use his immunity idol, or that he will use his immunity idol either. That's still to be decided. But we have these three starting to talk about who they do want to target. And it's pretty much settled that Mariah, girl with the rainbow colored hair, very vibrant colors everywhere. But they're going to target Mariah instead, not out of any dislike or anything else, but just because they feel like maybe she's a bit of the weakest link type situation in this case. So they're talking about Mariah, but at the same time, or close to the same time, we also have Sammy and Mariah talking about going after Owen. And the idea is that Mariah, especially, she really wants to protect this girl's alliance. And the concern is that if we don't get one of the guys out, what's going to happen? So she's shooting for the guys. They had talked previously, those other three, about getting Mariah out. So we're kind of identifying our two targets. Could it be Mariah? Could it be Owen? But as I mentioned, we did have this discussion about a girls' alliance, and Janine in particular is worried about losing a girl. Ellie seemed very much on board to work with Owen and Gabler and get Mariah out, but she has told Janine that, and Janine is saying, I'm just worried about losing a girl this early. Suddenly it's going to be 2 girls, 3 guys. We've lost the majority from this point onwards, and they could just steamroll us at that point in time. I'm not really certain that that's what I want to do. And as she explains this to Ellie starts considering maybe saving Mariah and sending out Owen instead. So again, they've got some connections, but it's very new, very initial. They're certainly not solidified in any form or manner at all. So now all 3 women are looking at Owen as potentially a primary target at this point in time. So with all of that going on, we get to Tribal Council. Very cool set for Tribal Council this season. It's pretty neat. But we get to Tribal Council. There's a lot of talk about them getting to know each other, that they were so happy to be working together. They were so certain that they were going to win, that they were going to go all the way to the final 6, not lose anyone from their tribe. Yeah, right. There's nothing wrong with being optimistic, but you better be doing some planning in the background as well. And Jeff kind of calls them out, says, y'all can't be that. He didn't say naive. I'll use that word, but he's saying you can't think that you could make it all the way to the end. And they're saying, well, we're so busy trying to stay optimistic that we just haven't been planning. We haven't been conspiring and all that. Well, some of you have been conspiring and planning more so than others. But they're talking about how well they've been working together, and now kind of the reality has hit. They're going to have to send someone out. the door, or out the door, Big Brother term. Send him off the tribe, extinguish the flame, and all that. Gabler again starts speaking up about accountability. Tells Jeff, says, "Look, I hold myself accountable. I was the one doing that last part of the competition. We didn't win it, so you got to point the finger at me." Wonder what Sammy thought about that. He's probably saying, "Yeah, don't be putting too much of a blame on the two of us there at the end of that thing." But Gabler's saying it. Ellie comes back. She says, "Look, that was." We were all competing. Just because you put yourself out there to do that and it didn't quite work out, that doesn't mean that you therefore need to go home. You put yourself out there, you tried it. She said, that is not going to be what decides who goes home, though. It's just not going to be the case, Gabler. And she's saying, really, at this point in time, it's not about how someone performed in a particular competition. She says it's more about the relationships. Who approached me? Who do I already feel comfortable with? Who maybe do I not feel comfortable with? And that. And I think Janine's the one that talks about it's kind of like going on a date. She said, I've texted some people have texted me, made some phone calls. She said, it's like going on a date. There's people I feel comfortable with, others I'm not so comfortable with. And so the women are pretty much putting out there that, it's more relationships rather than what happened on there. And we'd heard conversations before. Some of the women really worried that Gabler, even though he's a little older, doesn't mean he can't provide a lot of help in terms of competitions and everything else. And so they're thinking that they want him for his vote. They also want him for what he can contribute to the challenges themselves. So that's what we're facing. Owen and Mariah, those are the two names that have been thrown out there. We know it's probably going to be one of those two. So the big question, does Gabler use his idol? He didn't use Shot in the Dark. He said he wouldn't. He didn't. Is he going to use his idol? Just knowing that he might use it might be enough to save him, protect him from this crazy idea of not using his idol when he feels like there's a bit of a threat. As it turns out, no idols were played whatsoever. Gutsy, crazy, well calculated, and such. Maybe a little bit of olive for Gabler. Again, maybe saying so loudly that he's not going to use it. Maybe that kind of worked with some reverse psychology or something and actually made him less of a target because of that. I'm not really sure. It doesn't matter. The idol was not played. We now hear what the votes are. We get a vote for Owen. We get a vote for Mariah. We get another vote for Mariah. And as it turns out, eventually we see in the after show as well, by a 5-1 vote, Mariah has been evicted from the island. Her torch has been extinguished. We lose Mariah. Now, Owen got one vote, which came from Mariah herself. So everyone who's left on this tribe did vote as a unit to send Mariah at the door. So I guess the one good thing that can be said for this tribal council is this group stays unified. There's no conflict between them, supposedly, theoretically, since they all voted the same way. So that may help them as a tribe going forward. Hated to lose Mariah. She was, again, I hadn't seen her until this episode, didn't know much about her background, but yeah, her rainbow hair, the everything about her just seemed like a very joyous person. It just didn't work out, unfortunately. She became an easy target, and she also became our first evictee from Big Brother season 43. There'll be a lot more joining her at the Ponderosa hangout over the next few weeks and all. But yeah, so we are now down to 17 castaways instead of 18. Again, 2 hours, a lot of stuff happening throughout the thing. Exciting. Some people really playing the game strategically. Some people that are kind of going against the grain, like Gabler, and surprising us with some of the stuff he does. It's going to be a fun season. I'm happy to be there. I'll be covering it this point forward every Wednesday. So I'll be dropping episodes Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Guys, I welcome aboard. I hope y'all enjoyed your journey with me. I'm looking forward to it. Until next Wednesday, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.